everything that you need to know about broad targeting. Let's dive into this. Now, first off, I want to start this by saying far too many people misunderstand what broad targeting really even is and why it's honestly the most powerful option available when running Facebook ads. And the only audience you'll probably ever need. We're going to break down how it works, why it's effective, why other options like lookalikes and interest groups or in retargeting are ultimately just obsolete old tech. And ultimately, how this is going to help you tremendously scale your business in a way that makes Facebook really, really easy. Now, let's get started. First off, we have to understand broad is not an adjective. Broad is a noun. Broad targeting utilizes only age, gender, and location to restrict the available impressions for any ad to be delivered to. When you put on any other options for your audience, interests and behaviors and custom audiences, like anything, GUAC costs extra. It's going to come at a premium cost. Your CPMs are going to be higher, and the available impressions for your ad to reach is going to be a smaller pool. You're ultimately going to be forcing more ads on people that might not be as good, and we'll get to that in a minute. One of the simple truths that we're all going to just have to accept to move forward is something really simple. Audiences do not do the targeting. They never have. Think of audiences as premium priced restrictions on the available users that any ad could be shown to. Ads do the targeting. Full stop. That's how an optimized CPM environment works. Remember that ads are nothing more than just organic posts that you pay money to show to more people. And the algorithm behind organic posts and paid, it's the exact same. Every single ad understands, just like any other piece of organic content, who's going to respond positively to it, or who has, and who does not want to see the content in their feed. Because of this, broad targeting, or sometimes called open targeting, becomes an essential, brilliant basic of every successful ad account. Because it effectively says, I'm going to build my business around being algorithmically aligned with my business partner. And, well, anybody in business long enough to know their shit will tell you this. If you and your partner aren't meeting eye to eye on your objectives, you're going to have a bad time. When you pay extra, when you pay a tax, when you pay more money to restrict good impressions and ultimately raise your cost of advertising across the account, that also forces you to put bad experiences onto people. And again, this makes you a bad business partner to the platform. And when you use a lot of audiences, you're diversifying your data set in a machine learning platform. Basically, you're paying extra to make sure that the best people might not see what you have to say and keep your employees dumb. Does that sound like a good idea? When you use audiences, let's just recap here. We have to accept a few facts. Number one, you are paying extra money. Number two, it forces you to work harder. Number three, you're going to get worse results. Not only on the platform, but omni-channel and incremental lift will be impaired by this. And number four, that happens at scale. Overall, there isn't an upside to doing things poorly. And that goes for every interest group, every behavior, every lookalike, and yeah, Every single retargeting audience. Every mid-funnel, bottom funnel, or flash in the pan thing that some jerk on the internet told you was their trick to getting a 5x ROAS is complete nonsense. Let's understand something very basic here. Facebook always retargets. Each ad knows who's likely to respond positively to it. And ads are often shown to people that have never seen us before. But that isn't cold prospecting. It's actually intent and experience-based, contextually relevant retargeting that Facebook does for us dynamically. The point is, if you're in the market for sneakers, are you only ever going to see ads from sneaker companies whose ads you've already seen? Does that make any sense? Of course not. But when somebody's in the market, when you abandon cart on a certain product, have you ever noticed that your feed gets blown up by a bunch of that product and all of their competitors? When we restrict who can see our ads by using audiences to target our ads to our target audience, which again, isn't how Facebook works, hasn't for years. That won't change. Facebook basically hasn't changed in 5 years, and it probably won't ever, because the rest of the world's copying them. That's how optimized CPM environments work. What we are really doing is making it more difficult for our business partner to meet our shared business objectives by forcing our ads to not get shown to the best people. If the best possible person to see your ad today is somebody who wasn't in that targeting audience today, you missed them. And that's just one of many reasons that this just doesn't make any sense. Broad targeting and CBO. We're going to smash this home because if you're not using this yet, you got a tremendous opportunity to make your ad account better. And if you're winning and not using this yet, imagine how much better you could be doing. One of the biggest mistakes that the vast majority of advertisers continue to make enthusiastically is relying on a large set of audiences, or ABO. Spending less money in more places doesn't actually help the machine do its job. In fact, it's really bad. Facebook's unfair advantage in the digital marketing universe is that it is a machine learning algorithm with over a decade of user data on the vast majority of people in the world and their buying behavior, both online and off. And nobody else can ever compete with this scale or ability. Remember, it's not just what you've done today. It's what you've done ever on the internet or in the real world with your credit card or your taxes, the websites you visited, the locations you've been while you've had a smartphone, and every message you've ever sent to any user. Facebook knows all that information. Facebook uses trillions of data points and purchase behavior history for every single person in its database to condition users to take desired actions. That's what it's really good at. It's a multi-touch point salesperson that knows all of your personal information. Utilizing broad allows everything that we spend to compound in value by having the most cohesive advertising effort for every user. Creative testing at broad. When we do creative testing, by definition, what we are doing is seeing of the available people within our audience, what user experience and copy and creative generate the best business results for both ourselves and for Facebook. This is algorithmic alignment. And I want you to understand that Facebook's business objective isn't to take your money. Honestly, Facebook doesn't really care about your money. Facebook's business objective is to keep people on the platforms for as long as possible in each session and as often as possible every day. When we do creative testing against a broad audience, what we are doing is ultimately investing to understand what is the best possible ad we could make to have the greatest amount of stability and scale for our ad account with no restrictions and no inhibitions or added costs. Basically, what's the cheapest, most efficient, most effective, most stable, most scalable, highest confidence asset that we can develop to invest into? That's basically what every business that's successful ever prioritizes. When we do testing against other types of audiences like interest groups and lookalikes, not only are we paying extra money, because remember, those audiences come at a premium cost. Remember, GUAC costs extra. But we're doing so to potentially see if new ideas are good, but those new ideas are also tremendously inhibited in their ability to produce sustainable and scalable results. And it's not just because, well, that audience is smaller. It's also because that audience is dynamic. You might be in a lookalike audience or an interest group today, and you might not be in it tomorrow. You might have spent all week talking about how you hate something, and you're in that interest group today. And then next week, you don't talk about it at all. Maybe you're not interested in that ad anymore, but Facebook used you as a data point to see whether or not it did well. That's just one extraordinarily common example of how, one, interest groups don't work the way you think they do, and number two, those audiences that you pay extra to get less scalable results are also tremendously volatile. When we do creative testing, our objective should always be to produce the highest value and highest confidence asset that can be leveraged to the greatest extent for our business objectives at scale, while also being algorithmically aligned with our business partner. That's how we win. Scaling with broad audiences. Now, this is important. Probably the most common question I get asked all the time for anyone trying to run ads is pretty simple. How do I scale? Well, we've already established a blue ocean of opportunity by finding ads that work against a completely stable audience that work well for you. It becomes far easier to invest more with a projectable outcome with high confidence. Ask anybody that's running a successful business, and that's pretty much always your goal. Running audiences other than broad tremendously inhibits the projectability and stability of any business outcome. Ultimately, broad should be used on every single ad account where scale, success, confidence, and long-term stability is a priority. And maybe those aren't your goals. And in that case, you don't have to use broad. And to be fair, there are a lot of people where those aren't the goals. I've spent millions where making money had nothing to do with why we spent money. That's also the reason that some of these options still exist. There is very little ground for any legitimate argument against using broad and against making it the absolute foundation of every account. Remember, broad isn't the lack of targeting. Broad is the inhibition to the targeting every ad has created for itself. That's how Facebook works. With that being said, go broad. No good reason not to.